Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Ryan here. Ryan, you're somebody that you're a disruptor. You decided to create more expression in a category that didn't have that before. That was very much, there was only a certain standard of things in that category, and you decided to really put a unique and innovative art spin there, and one that maybe was neglected by other people with what you did with PSD. You've got a bunch of different hobbies. You're creative in the art space. You got your own gallery, and you created a children's book. And so you're very much just a creative individual and trying to be at the forefront of design. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Yeah, it's just a lot of things I'm passionate about. For me, I was given a talent with art at a young age. My parents recognized it and always kind of like threw things in front of me to use, And I was an athlete. I grew up playing sports, but when nobody was looking, I was always drawing and sketching stuff, and always involved and had like a passion for art. And as I aged, it got bigger and bigger, and something I really, started to take serious. Um, and my brother, he was with him. We had something different about us. We always were into well, we had to go to work. Our parents, we didn't come from money. It was like, hey, when you could get working papers in New York, we got working papers, and we got little jobs. We went to school, we played sports, but we also would work and make our own money. And it kind of turned into this little like snowball effect of being little like hustlers, as you'd say, starting small. And it's funny, I was thinking about it today on if I had to explain things, it's like at a young age as a teenager, there was never, if I was spending my own money, it was always on something that was worth more money in a weird way. We
Mm.
started with like dirt bikes as like as our first like motor vehicle type things. And I remember like I think I bought one at like 14 or 13 for like $500, and it was worth, I got it, made a deal with somebody, got it knowing it would be worth 800 when I was ready to move up and get something else. So it was always that like side of us that we would buy and sell things. We never bought to keep. It was like we bought it, we would use it, and then we would flip it. And that was before it was even really something that nowadays you hear like, oh, flipping. There's TV shows, there's all those things where they go to pawn shops, they do all that. We kind of did it long before it was even known. There was no social media. The things that you heard of, it was through word of mouth, and my brother and I kind of just got into that throughout our lives. And for me, PSD wasn't, I didn't know that PSD would be what I created, but I always wanted a clothing brand at a young age. I was that teenager that wanted to be, I would send in for like the Wu-Tang Clan membership, and like I was that kid that would send in the Gatorade points to get stuff. But when, there was a sweatshirt I wanted, this is a little backstory on how clothing kind of became, a hobby of mine and a passion. Uh, there was a Wu Wear sweatshirt I wanted, and I couldn't afford it. And so I went to Walmart. I bought felt, like the little pieces of felt, and I cut out the letters, and then I made the Wu Tang symbol. And I had at the time my girlfriend's mom sew it together. And next thing you know, I'm wearing this Wu Wear sweatshirt to school that I created. And I spun off of that. I enjoyed that, and I would always make clothing for myself. And I always dreamed of like, man, someday I want to have a clothing brand that's famous. As a kid, you dream of like money and fame. And I always said, wouldn't it be something if someday, I could have my own brand that I'm walking down the street and like someone's wearing my stuff, not knowing that it would actually someday happen. That was the dream at the time. And through the years, younger years, my brother, he was always on it. Like my brother has always been able to save money and find ways to make money. We always worked, and we both worked for a grocery store, Wegmans at the time. I'll never forget it. We're both, I'm clocking in and he's clocking out, and he looks at me and he says, "This is my last day here." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I make more money mowing lawns. I don't need this." And I was like, oh man, like he's out. But for me, the girls were at Wegmans. I wasn't leaving. So he kind of ventured off and did his thing, but he was always that leader, with the buying and selling. And it just, we both, in society, they say you got to know what you got to know what you want to do by 18, or by the time you go to college, you're supposed to know the rest of your life. And it's sad that our world kind of sets that up for people because it's so far from the truth. We both went to college. My brother went for business. I went for electrical engineering. No clue why. It was horrible.
Huh.
I was not good in school. In art, I excelled. You know, art was the way that I got that A+ on my report card to curb it. You know, like I'd get that C in history, and then the art would be like, yo, I could care less what George Washington's doing, but look at this painting, you know, type thing. But yeah, we both went to school, and one day, bouncing around and kind of lost in life after college. I always worked though. We always were on it. Like I said, the side hustles, buying and selling, and just PSD was something I did it at the basement of my dad's house at the time. I wrote it down. My grandpa said something that made it happen, and I wrote it down. I said, this is what I'm gonna put my time and effort into. And I didn't for the first time ever. I think I was like 23, about to turn 24, and I didn't care what anybody said. It was like, you ask 100 people, if you come up with an idea and you ask 100 people, 99% of them are going to shut you down real fast and say that's dumb, and that's the sad truth of our world. But I didn't care. I went out and made 50 shirts, $200. That was my initial investment, and that was the beginning to what it is now. And Kurt and I teamed up as business partners, and it's been a wild ride. It's hard to talk about 17 years with the success that we've had, because Kurt and I have never stopped a day to really celebrate anything.
So, in terms of like the initial sales of the product, Ryan, like
Mhm.
you got a couple of shirts here. Like, was it just friends and family? Like, hey, we want to support you. We're gonna go buy this too. And like, what was the appeal of the product then? Like, how did you sell it, and
So
what really sold it?
the weirdest thing is from day one, I always had like a wild style, and just it wasn't just friends and family. It was like people here, and we grew up in a small town. If you were to see where we're from, people would be like, how did they do what they did? It's a really small town, great community. Growing up, it was a great place to grow up with, family and sports and everything. But there isn't much there, and it was weird when I brought word got out that I was just doing that, and there was, of course, the mass majority of people hating on it and not wanting any part of it. But then there was the people that were like, hey, do you have the shirts? And I sold, I think, the 50 shirts in like 2 days. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. I doubled my money. I think I paid $4 a shirt and I sold them for 8, right? So, and then
Okay.
Kurt and I team up, and I go in and I invest the initial money back. And next thing you know, I'm making more shirts. And it just started to snowball into this craziness of, from day one, we had a cool thing going, and I would throw my art on the shirts, and it happened fast. I'd say within a year, I mean, 6 months, my brother and I, we had invested any of our money into an RV. We were touring locally to any event that would accept us. Most people were like, what is this? But we didn't care. We would set up and sell as long as they'd allow us to. And then we would just regroup and go back at it. And it just became this thing to where we realized how fast it was growing. And we said, we got to leave our area. We got to really, really go somewhere. So let's say 2007 technically was the start date, even though there was a little bit time before. By 2008, we were hitting the road in an RV to California saying we're going to Los Angeles. And I remember our dad was like, you guys can't go to California. You don't know anybody. And we're like, see you later, Dad. Thanks. Thanks for everything you did for us. And we're out. And it was the best move we ever made, and yeah, it really took off fast, but it also, you're broke, you're trying to make it, you have everything invested into your company, and now you have to make your own money. So like I said, our little side things we did were really important to us, whether it was buying and selling cars, and any way we could make money, we would.
Hmm. So, see, when did like underwear become such a strong category for you guys? Like, was it just you tried the product and people liked it, and you kind of created it
Well,
and people were buying it?
yeah, we were adding stuff, accessories, and I remember, we're like, hey, we should do a brief, and I created some crazy design, and then we sent out for it, and the money we were paying per brief was ridiculous, and we get it in, we make like $1 off the brief. It was horrible at first, but they would sell out, and we were like, wow. And the true, like, it's hard because Kurt and I need to sit next to each other and like spin these stories off of each other, because like I said, this was forever ago now. So it's like hard to get the actual like when it was, but I'll never forget. Um, we were getting bigger, and we started to leave the action sports industry to move towards professional football and basketball and that. And we were getting to athletes, and they were like, "We can't wear your clothing. We're endorsed by Nike and Adidas and all these." And we were like, and I'll never forget, my brother was like, "Well, do you have an underwear sponsor?" And they're like, Michael Jordan was like the only one with underwear, Hanes, you know. And we're like, boom, okay, well, we'll be your underwear sponsor. And like Kurt and I had this conversation, and there's a lot of details that can be filled in, but obviously that'll be a different time and a place. But yeah, we flipped the switch overnight and became PSD underwear. And I'll never forget the backlash in the beginning of people being like, what is this? This brand that was clothing and, is now underwear? Like, how is that going to work? Because the category wasn't anything yet. And yeah, there was other brands, but we were like, let's do this. And as soon as we did that, we started really growing fast with getting the right people involved, the athletes, like I said, the ones that were willing to work with us. And, luckily, one of our first athletes was Stevie Johnson of the Buffalo Bills. And man, Stevie is like a brother to me, and will forever be slated in the PSD story because he took a chance on us. He enjoyed the product and he really like cared. And that was something new for us because most people just want free stuff and they just want to be like, yeah, whatever, and they don't care. But Stevie truly cared and like kind of set the bar for us. And we were like, next thing you know, we're in professional locker rooms and cafeterias with the teams, and we're just this is crazy. We're not part of this world, but now we are. And we just started rolling, man, rolling with it all over the country and meeting new people and just nonstop, just at it. No matter what hit us in the face, we just kept going. And in business, there's highs and lows. And for some reason, my brother and I never were phased like most people would be phased when something goes wrong. We always found a way to just power through. And we were on the road for many, many years in that RV until we set up shop in Los Angeles.
Hmm. You talked about like getting the first athlete. I mean, you guys didn't come from much, Ryan. How did you go
Mhm.
about doing that? Like to cultivate a relationship like that? Was it like an event? Or like how did that kind of happen?
So for Stevie, it was funny. It was like when Twitter was nothing yet. And I remember I saw a picture of Stevie and he posted, he has, his shirt off, he had tats, and he had like his waistband showing on a brief, and he had shorts on. And I sent it to my brother. We lived in a duplex. He lived upstairs with his friends. I lived downstairs with mine, where it was like the ultimate bachelor pad. And I sent him the picture and I said, we need to get this picture with Stevie. He was local, Bills, Buffalo. We lived close to Buffalo and Bills fans. And I said, if we can get this with our underwear on, this would be huge. And my brother scrolled through Twitter trying to find his agent and came across his agent and reached out and said, hey, would he be down? And like I said, luckily Stevie was in, man, and we fit his style. Stevie was way ahead of his game with fashion, long before fashion was even what it is today. But Stevie was always stylish and always like breaking through. And he saw something in us, and next thing you know, we had that photo with him rocking it, and it was like I said, it was like a switch went off, and we were rocking and rolling, in a new world.
So what was it like right after that? Like was it just like a huge surge of interest for your products and then other athletes wanted to come on? Like and how did you kind of keep up with what was next?
Well, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it was like we still were building product, trying to get like
Hmm.
things right. There's many mistakes you make in business. You have to learn. There's no, black book to anything that you can just go, oh, you just do this. Like everybody's story is different. For us, it was like we were always on it. I mean, we never had days off. Like it was nonstop. What's today? What's today? What's today? So with Stevie, we hit the road and we would always, go back with that, but we were just growing and trying to get other people. And, later down the road, we're at another event in Gainesville, and that's when Mike Miller came into play. Um, Mike, the NBA champ, and we hit it right with him. And Mike's great. Mike became part of our company. He liked what we did, and it was the perfect timing. He was down in Miami, man, about to win championships with LeBron, and it was like we all of a sudden got thrown into that mix and really started to learn, the business world and the networking, and people started to like our product. And if an athlete didn't fit us, they might lead us to somebody that does. And eventually, yeah, it was like we started working with the right people and really growing it no matter what. And we didn't really listen to the noise. A lot of people will try to drag you down. And for some reason, my brother and I would just, Kurt and I would just power through. And yeah, Mike was the next one that really put us on the map. Um, it's just nonstop, you know. Like I said, in business, it was like we didn't have any days off.
But was there ever kind of like a point, Ryan, where, like you were you were thinking to yourself, like, why would people care about designs on briefs? Because it's not necessarily as shown as other fashion, items like a shirt, etc. Was there ever kind of like a point where you're like, well, why put an entire design on this? But it seems like that's what's also led to the success.
Yeah, for us, it was weird because we were a hidden product. You know, it's like, how do you show? And we didn't want to have guys in their underwear. You know what I mean? Like promoting like guys just full out naked with underwear, like practically. You know, it was a weird thing. But so we just decided to, yeah, we put out wild styles, but at the same time, when we marketed ourselves, it was just the band showing, you know. We would show the band and it was like we would do a cool photo that would draw in attention, but it wasn't crossing that line of like the Calvin Klein, and we weren't trying to chase that. We were trying to just create our own lane with it. And I think over time we just got better and better with that, even our athletes felt more comfortable, you know, like, do I have to take my pants off, you know, type stuff. It's like, no, man, we're just a cool family brand that like we, you know, like when I say family, it's like it became this huge following, and we always said that everybody's our family, and if you're down with us, we're down with you, you know. And it just slowly evolved into better photo shoots and more people liking the stuff. And then as we were building our product, you know, better and better and better into a premium brief, um, yeah, just more people, more interest. And like I said, we were traveling. We were meeting people all over the country. Didn't matter where we were going, as long as we could set up and sell.
So, part of what I think what was interesting was like the price points of where you were at. Like you were in a more premium segment with this kind of streetwear approach that I think was didn't really exist so much. It didn't really
Mhm.
exist at all when you were creating that. Like, were you at all like kind of concerned about price point, about pricing it the way you were, and like how did you determine the right pricing?
Well, that's Kurt's angle. My brother, he's the business side of things. For me, I stayed with the creative side, and thankfully, I don't really worry about that side of it. But I remember being like, we got to be at the $20 bill, you know, per brief. That was crazy at the time, back in like let's say 2009, 10. I was like, wow, I'm paying $20 for print.
Mhm.
But we made it work, and we never struggled to sell it. It was one of those things because we would vend, you know, and people just spent money, and and yeah, we just kept it going. But as far as like price points, that's where, when we set up shop in LA in our first office, we started hiring the right people that knew the industry and knew stuff like that. And you know, my brother and I, you know, would take, I didn't even have a salary for a long, long time in business. I said, I'll make my own money on the side with art and whatever I need to do, in order to just have my personal life pay the bills. And the business took all the money, you know, and just to grow it. So we hired employees and we started learning more and more. And like I said, that business side is like my brother's, that's what he's into. He really truly is one of the best businessmen on the planet. I stand by that. Uh, there's no way that we would be where we are if Kurt wasn't the way he was. You know, I bring certain things to the table, but you know, he's the leader of the brand, and we just did our thing, and learning from people that have been in the industry, not in the underwear, you know, category, but just a lot of our employees came from great brands, and they took a chance on us, and we had some that didn't work out, and it was like on to the next, you know, hire and fire, or they'd leave not believing in it, and we just kept it moving, you know. And luckily, you know, now we've had employees that have been with us over 10 years, and it's amazing. I mean, our employee base now is the dream team. I love them all. And they, you know, and even the ones of the past, man, just to believe in it for a little bit, whether they're with us or not, you know, anymore. It was just like it took that, but I think they could see the passion and the drive that Kurt and I had, and there was no going back. You know, I think the reason that Kurt and I have the success that we have is because we were like, what are we going to do if we don't do this? Like, there's no way we can clock into a regular job ever again. If you've ever seen lions and tigers in a cage, they pace. And I think that describes my brother and I, because if you see us when we're doing stuff, it's very hard for us to sit still. We pace on the phone. We in our office, we're always moving. That's just how we were wired. It's a crazy thing, but that helped us in the long run. Just being like on it, never afraid to work and tire yourself out, wear yourself out.
Mhm. So you have this attitude, this like whatever attitude, which is behind your art in all different places. I think it's like kind of your own philosophy that you've developed and just the way that you create. It's a very free flowing way. You kind of take different types of materials and things that maybe wouldn't be as expected. Is this something you just kind of developed over the years and has resulted in the best art? And like, why have this approach?
Well, I think people get caught up in trying to do things for everybody else. And if you're doing things for everybody else, you're not doing it for yourself. With my art, I remember just one day I was like, you know what? I need to get my who I am out and not saying separate from PSD, but in my own lane where I can actually paint the stuff that I want to paint without worries of anybody else. So I started the Flaitz whatever thing, and that is I paint whatever I want because I want to do it. I never really worried about the sales. I knew my value would grow over time, but I had complete confidence in my work as an artist. Like I said, I've been doing it my whole life. I truly feel confident in my art skills. I can turn it on and turn it off anytime I want. If I want to do crazy details, I can. If I want to do no detail, I can. And that was the philosophy behind that. And truly, I'll never forget when I painted my first cardboard piece. The first 10 people that saw it was like, wow, I love that, but why would you paint it on cardboard? And I was like, well, that's why I'm going to continue to paint on cardboard right there. It's different. And yeah, I just ran with it and with no worries, not caring. It was almost like investing in myself in other ways. Um, and it's come a long ways. The value I've built with my art without marketing it, without really pushing it, promoting it. I have a list of clients and collectors that reach out to me and say, "What do you have?" Currently I am scheduled to have a show in Wynwood in Miami, January 6th, if everything goes like I believe it will. And I have originals that I put away in 2015 that I'm pulling out and they'll be going up for sale. And I mean, I'm talking, I probably have over 100 originals that nobody even knows even still are around. And I'm just going to have a massive show. But yeah, the whatever thing, I just developed that I paint whatever I want, how I want it. People reach out and want commission paintings from me, and I say that's cute, cool, I'll do it, but it's going to be done my way. Or if I don't feel it, I don't do it. I'll be an artist as long as I want to be. There could come a day where I don't enjoy it anymore, and I'll flip the switch off, and that's that, and I'll be perfectly fine with it.
Yeah, you've kind of done a lot of different things, Ryan, throughout even just the last like 10, 15 years. Like where do you see the next like 5 to 10 years playing out? I mean, you're still director of art, PSD, doing your own thing with art. You have the children's book. Like, what do you hope to accomplish now?
Well, with PSD now, like I said, we have an amazing employee base. We have an art team now that follows the trends and figures things out. If I want to put, ideas out there, I hit up people and send them through the table. It's fine. As far as me personally, I don't know. I like to continue with my art. I'm going to, I recently am residing in St. Petersburg, Florida. I go back to LA as often as I need to. And here I haven't even hit the scene yet, and I'm excited to have a pop-up gallery and do that stuff. That's for the future. And I honestly might chase that and own my own gallery and allow either other artists to come in and I try to help a lot of artists that don't understand certain things about, everybody wants to be able to sell their pieces for a lot of money. And that's not the reality all the time, but a lot of artists sell themselves short, and it's the starving artist thing. When you need the money, you spend a lot of time doing something, and if you need money, you're desperate to sell it, and you just let things go. But for me, even my struggles, I wouldn't. I remember my brother, Kurt. I always say my brother, but Kurt, being like, "You need to sell stuff. Like, why are you stockpiling your art?" And I'm like, "Because the value is there, and I'm not yard selling my stuff. I know who I am. I know my talent, and I put in the work. I master my craft any way I can. So 5 to 10 years from now, I don't know. I'm starting to do a lot more things. I like to paint certain things. I like to sketch things. Like I said, the children's book was a thing. Now I'm gonna try to set up things for kids and teach them, how to have fun with art. And not everything is got to be on a canvas and everything clean. You can have fun with. You can turn art out of anything, really. And for me, it's more of like maybe help people with my from what I've learned, give back and kind of push people to lift them up and say hey, chase it. I always tell people, like, make sure you're passionate about what you're going to go for, and don't worry about what the world is going to, say about it. Just, you gotta do it. You gotta try it. And you never know. I mean, did I think that my brother and I would be where we are? I truly did. Yeah. We were going to be successful no matter what, with or without PSD. We just had that in us like I said, from a young age. Our parents taught us how to work and chase things. My mom was a dreamer, and we dream big. So it's always evolving. I will always be adding more to my plate, even though sometimes I shouldn't. I just am. It's like I said, I create the children's book. As soon as I had that in my hand, I was on to the next thing, and it's like, oh man, I should take a minute and let that sink in and really have life. But that's just not how I work. It's always something else.
Well, look, Ryan, I mean, that's all the questions that I I appreciate you coming on. I mean, the story you have is incredible from coming from not much of anything, and just that belief and that mindset, and to really build something that is a category leader is so disruptive in terms of the artwork there. It's so unique, and it's probably the most forward facing from an art perspective brand there is, in this fashion space. And then now to be able to do your own thing and have that attitude and the confidence to create art that's really authentic to you. It's something that artists, I think, strive for. Like you mentioned, and so I think people should check out your event on January 6th. I think you mentioned in Wynwood. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we could finally make it work.